Hello, this is Sifu Slim, and I'm coming to you live over the internet. I am in Newport Beach, California, and I'm talking to Gary Mass, who's in Boca Raton, Florida. How are you doing today, Gary?
Doing great. Not so much. I'm actually sick. I have a cold, but you want to hear the real story. So I have a cold for the first time in 4 years. Then brought on by the fact that I actually mentioned to Judy this week that I was amazed that I hadn't been sick in 4 years or even had a cold. And so as a result, even though I knocked on wood, it didn't help.
Well, I know that from people in Europe, when I was spending time in Europe as a youngster, when I had a cold over there, and coming from New Jersey, I was a master at getting the colds where you start out with the clammy weather outside, the moist weather, and then you're inside a lot, so you're getting more exposure to dust and the carpet and the pets, and underneath your bed I had a hardwood floor, so these balls of dust would form there. And as a kid, you don't know about all these things. You don't grow up thinking of, I was interested in wellness, but it wasn't like somebody was around there teaching me every little detail that I needed to know to function well and avoid colds. But as soon as you get a little itch, you take your finger and you work on that itch, and that's taking the germ that's out there and inserting it into one of your mucous membranes. And so I learned over time, and it took me till I was in college before this allergist I was going to see, he said, your fingers, you avoid your nose, your eyes, and your mouth, and you've got a good chance at fighting off the airborne stuff that comes from a sneeze. But if you touch something and you go right in there to the mucous membrane, that's a real hard one to fight off. And what are your thoughts on that, Gary?
No, I agree. I mean, it's very difficult to try to follow what the path would be, what the cause of it is, but nothing has changed here in a long time. Like everything has been fairly consistent as far as my environment concerns are. So I don't know if that was the reason, because maybe it's stress. She's saying Judy's saying maybe it's stress related, but I don't have I can't specifically point to anything in the environment. I mean, here in Florida, it's maybe different than up in the Northeast. But, it's just a random thing, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
I work around more germs than the average person does, exposed to a lot of medical, and working in a hospital environment. It's all over the place.
You're in hospitals several days per week, correct?
More than that. Yeah. 4 to 5 days a week. I'm exposed to people that are sick, or I'm in an area that's concentrated.
Yeah. So what I was leading into is Europe, which is similar weather, at least Northern Europe, the Frances, the Germanys, et cetera, pretty similar weather to New Jersey, where both you and I spent a lot of time in our youth. They would tell me over there that you've got to avoid sugar when you've got a cold, or when you feel a little bit run down and your immunity is down. You got to avoid sugar. And so that was in the 70s and the 80s I was getting these messages, and I didn't understand biochemistry as a younger person, but now I do. And now I understand how cells react, and how our bloodstream reacts, and how our energy and our pancreas and our blood sugar react to those vacillations. And so the sugar, which is what you and I started talking about before we jumped online here for this conversation, was breaking the sugar cycle. So maybe you can share with we've just said that sugar is not good for preventing colds or getting over colds. Now we're talking about just living and energy levels and creeping obesity, gaining a little bit of weight per year, and seeing that effect over 5 years or 20 years, and what that does to people. And then how do you live healthful lives with sugar as a constant potential, as something you can access and you have a propensity to access. So share what you mentioned, Gary. Remember, I'm Sifu, and refer to me, if you would, be so kind, as Sifu, because I put my Sifu hat on this morning here in Newport Beach. What you mentioned about breaking the sugar cycle.
Well, we were speaking of what the weak link, so to speak, is for me. I mean, we live very healthy lives overall. We are at least 90, maybe 95% organic in general. But as soon as I'm finished eating a meal, a lunch or dinner, I'm like an addict. I am running to whatever it could be. I'm looking for sugar. And as it's happening, as I'm experiencing that rush to find sugar, I know what's happening. I can feel the draw. It's like it's truly an addiction. And maybe now that I'm older, I'm much more conscious of it physically. But I'll do anything to get like chocolate, even an orange, grapes, anything that has the sugar, and it could be anything at all. Even milk chocolate, which I don't even like. I'm looking for something. I'll uncover it. I'll find it somewhere within 30 seconds of finishing a meal. And mind you, we don't do a lot of carbs. We hardly do any carbs. This is right after a meal like last night. We had grilled salmon with asparagus. That was the extent of our dinner. 2 minutes later, I'm looking for dessert.
Okay.
Looking for something sweet. Why is that? Why is that? Because I'm an addict. And I'm not morbidly obese. I just know. I don't think it's because I enjoy my sweets or desserts. I have a physical craving for it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so biochemistry is something that I've been sharing for a number of years, that I believe biochemistry trumps all else. So the biochemistry is the ace of spades in human behavior. And part of that happens in the conscious mind, part of it happens in the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is the powerhouse of our decision making, of our behavior. For example, I put a little notification out on the web a few years ago, and it talked about women choose their mate by scent. And so I got one reply back from a woman who disagreed. And she said, no, I don't choose my potential dates and mates by scent. And so I copied and pasted something from my writing that talked about the unconscious mind. I said to her, I'm not saying you consciously do that. I'm saying that your physiology, your biochemistry, your biology, programmed through evolution, it trains us to, just like the birds flying south and then coming back in the warmer weather, it programs us to choose our mates and make decisions based on scent. And though I never got a reply back, I did get a lot of replies on that particular blog from other women saying, I agree, that other person didn't quite understand what you were saying. Do you have any thoughts on the unconscious mind and how that may have affected you over the course of your life and on the course of this?
You know, I will tell you this, I'm conscious of it, okay? Because I have it in the front of my mind that, why are you doing this? And again, I'm not 50 pounds overweight, I'm not 40 pounds overweight, I am 10 pounds overweight. But when I do it, I have feelings of guilt, but I don't resist it. I still eat it. I feel badly 5 minutes after the fact, like you would having the fifth drink of vodka, maybe, I don't know. But I have withdrawal based on what I'm eating in my meal. If something triggers it, I don't think it could be happening because it's not conscious, but I'm conscious of it for sure. I think about it as it's happening. It's right
the unconscious part that I was, the unconscious part I was speaking of is the one part of that unconscious mind is the biochemistry that sets up this whole progression of dominoes that are falling before it hits your conscious mind that says, okay, I'm going to go get the sweet right now to satiate something. Right. And there's something in that mind, body, and spirit that wants to be sated. We all have it. Now, how I was wired, and that's just how I was born, you know, like we all have our gifts. I was wired to follow the path of the non-dark side. And this doesn't mean that I haven't done things and that I still don't do things that I'm not completely enamored with. But the part about doing the right thing based on especially health and not hurting other people, including myself, I'm wired with a special wall and a special power to say no and to get actually excited by the fact that I can say no. It's like a turn on by saying no to the dark side. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Have you ever been there where you've got
what that trigger is? Because if it's truly tied to diet, it's not tied to diet at the moment spontaneously, because I don't have that type of a diet. So I don't eat fast food. I don't eat what I thought were the triggers that would stimulate me to do that. I know I enjoy that. I enjoy the sweets, but it's much bigger than that.
Yeah, I completely understand it. So as a person who grew up in adolescence and pre-adolescence, the behavior psychologists call what a lot of us young people do is testing our boundaries. So you and I were adolescents at one point, and instead of coming home at curfew sometimes, we may have had the desire or the action to stay out past curfew, even though we knew we may have gotten in trouble. And each family's trouble meter is different, and it also changes with time. Like there were times my parents didn't reprimand me because they had other things going on in their life, and there were times that they did reprimand me because I stepped in breaking the rules at a certain time. And as a kid, we have this urge to show that we are this young creature with the ability for self-direction and self-decision making, right? And so now as an adult who's been in the rat race, you longer than I have, you're unconsciously, I would say, and I'm not saying this is your only reason for doing something that you know is not right for you, but there is this thing in the unconscious that, you know, I've been playing this rat race game. You know, you've raised kids, you've been employable since you were a young dude, and you've worked your tail off, and you fought through traffic and being nice and being professional, and here's a chance to break the rules. And does that sound like it might be part of something that would fit with your scenario?
It's possible. I don't really see it as a breaking of the rules. I think it more of, if reflecting back on childhood, when you're a teen, you would have a dinner, and after that you would get the reward as here's your treat, here's your ice cream. I can recall vividly getting Breyer's ice cream, or getting some type of a snack after dinner, or going out and greeting the ice cream man would come. It was always right after dinner. So that piece is probably a stronger piece for me than what you're suggesting.
A pattern of reward?
Sure. I ate my meal, and now I'm going to have my treat. Yeah. So I don't see it as I never saw that as a negative. I thought, okay, now I'm going to have something that I really enjoy eating. The meal was fine. You know, it was okay, but the sugar was there, and that was the best part of the meal.
What were there any healthful treats from age 0 to age 30 that you remember, and what effect did they have on your ability to be sated and to enjoy the reward post meal?
I can't even think of one. I think minimally a piece of fruit, but you know, back in the 60s and 70s, your reward, your treat, like you would give to a dog after eating dinner, is, you know, was some kind of a piece of a cake, ice cream, something, chocolate, whatever. That's what it may not have happened immediately. At that time, I didn't feel it physically, the urge to have it. I knew it would come at some point, but now I physically feel like I'm looking for it. And okay, at the same time as having the urge not to have it. And if I get distracted, I can kind of like push it to the back of my mind. But then I'll do something, whatever I'm doing, read or watch TV or whatever, and then it comes back. It comes back again because it's here. It's within my grasp too. I don't have to go and kill it.
So it wasn't commonplace in the 60s and 70s for you to be offered a healthful dessert option, and maybe you can tell me what you would think is a healthful dessert option, and then secondly, tell me if those were easily accessible or consistently offered to you.
Well, they were not consistently available to me, and you know, I don't know if I guess there are. The first thing that pops into my mind would be like some almonds, some nuts, something along those lines, or maybe a piece of organic fruit. Maybe it still has sugar, but maybe something along those lines that was available. That would be a lot better. But I think, you know, mostly it was always something like chocolate or whatever, like I'm saying. So I don't have a memory of that being something enjoyable to me. If it was fruit, would be like the third thing or fourth thing on the list. It would fall way below ice cream or anything else. And I think that's still the case with kids now. And it's still being done in the U.S. I think parents might try to spin it a little bit towards something that's healthier, like organic chocolate or something along those lines, or yogurt or whatever it is. But they're still giving them something that's mostly sugar in some form.
So tell me your opinion on natural sugar that is part of a fruit, a cooked fruit. Tell me if you have some consideration that may not be good for you, and tell me why you may think that.
Well, I think of it in terms of being processed sugar versus something that's naturally occurring. Here at our house, we use either xylitol or some stevia or a stevia sugar blend. We don't even have regular processed sugar for ourselves that we would put into our food. With a cup of coffee, we're using something that's leaf-based, or I don't know what xylitol is, but Judy uses something that's a leaf-based sweetener too. So, and we don't bake, we don't make cookies or do anything out of a package at all. Everything is made from scratch. We don't have those treats available. I mean, but the difference is if I go to a package of chocolate, even if it's from Trader Joe's and it's organic, it still has regular processed sugar in it. I don't know if I answered your question.
So yeah, a good conversation starter right now would be to talk about healthful desserts. And I will suggest a few things that I do and see if they are at all of interest to you to put in your repertoire of available desserts. So cooked fruit, it releases the sugar in a different way than the raw fruit. Agree with microwaves, but hey, in a pinch, if I've got frozen blueberries and I didn't have time to prepare at a time, which is very easy, you just put them out, if you're in Florida especially, you put them outside for a half an hour before you eat them, and you cover them in a bowl, and they'll be defrosted by the time you're done with your meal, right? So there's blueberries, and they have the complex carbohydrate because they're in the berry form, and you can do that with most berries and most fruit. And the berries I like to store frozen because it's a lot less chance of them going moldy than it is if you just put them in the refrigerator. But if you're going to do it and you're going to eat them the same day, and they're packaged and shipped and they're fresh, which is not easy these days and probably never was, you can work with raw fruit. But I often buy frozen berries. And then
this is so
another thing you can do
we have right now in our freezer, we have organic frozen blueberries. We have strawberries, we have raspberries and things, but I don't go to that. I don't seek that out because I have the alternative. So Right.
So I'm going to pull out a couple of things that I just happen to have here. We've got organic whole premium flax seed. So these flax seeds are what I would call high on the list of things that are good for you with the omega-3s they have. And it's a seed that's sealed, and it's very little chance of these things getting moldy as opposed to peanuts and some other nuts. Moldy as soon as you pick them off the tree. There's a high incidence from them getting moldy, but these are in their own shell and they're petite. And what I was wondering for many moons is, do these things just get digested through our digestive system, processed through the digestive system without actually us uptaking them because they're in this shell? Well, what I found recently is that if you soak them, it softens them up so that your digestive tract can uptake those without too much of a problem. And if you don't have time to soak them, you just put them in a coffee grinder, and there you are with your ground flaxseed. I don't believe in buying the pre-ground flaxseed, but I do like to grind those. And for people with strong teeth, they can chew them. Next on the list, I've got some dark chocolate with espresso beans, and this says natural, and I can't attest. It says non-GMO. It doesn't say organic anywhere on here, but
those are one of my favorites. That I would eat all day long. But that satisfies the addiction to the sweet and to the sugar. The flaxseed, not so much. If you made it into a little candy and it was coated with chocolate, go for it. That's what, what you just showed there. That's what I would routinely go for. But that's processed sugar too.
Yeah, for people who are working on their wellness, which is part of my marketing campaign, I am WOW, working on wellness. I don't have a problem with someone who doesn't have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes or some other issue related to sugar, of them breaking off 1/3 of this or 1/4 of this bar and putting it on top of their bowl that's got some blueberries or some other fruit. It's got some flax seeds. It's got some nuts, perhaps. It's got some yogurt. We'd like to see you with a whole milk yogurt and not using yogurt that is fat reduced. And then some chocolate on top of that. I don't have a problem with that for me and for other people who are wellness oriented and don't have a predisposition to have a problem with sugar. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I agree with you. I don't want to over exaggerate what we talked about earlier in terms of a treat. 2 or 3 pieces of that chocolate bar is all I really need. I would never even really need more than that. But what I'm describing to you is what I'd like to uncover is what that trigger is that makes me want not the flaxseed, but the chocolate bar. The flax seeds are not going to cut it for me. Even the almonds wouldn't cut it for me. I need the sugar in some form to satisfy that. I don't need the whole bar. I need 2 or 3 pieces, and then I come down. It's like purely an addictive experience.
On the biochemistry side, I've got something that I would like you to try for a few weeks to see if it works, and also change the ingredients up to see if this works. So what I'm going to share is based on Covert Bailey, C-O-V-E-R-T, very popular biochemist from MIT who was a wellness person, strong-built guy he's got a very big, strong heart. So he calls himself, or he did call himself when he was out there in his public speaking and his book tours, he called himself the son of aerobics, not the father, because he mentions this other person who was more of the pioneer, the American pioneer of aerobics. So this guy, Covert Bailey, who would probably be in his 80s right now, wrote a series of books called Fit or Fat. And when he talked about from a biochemical point of view, is that when you put the fat and the protein in there, your biochemistry wants something to ignite that in your digestive tract and in your bloodstream. And he says sugar is the part that fires the flame that allows you to burn that fat and that protein. So you could look that up on the internet, the spark of sugar allowing that. So that would be normal. That would not be something that you would need to break. But if you wanted to see if you could go less on the sugar and less on the craving for sugar, what I would suggest you try in your meal, which you mentioned was salmon and spinach, correct?
Well, I was using one dinner because it just was last night. We had fresh organic salmon grilled with freshly scampied or in a pan asparagus. That was it.
Okay. So my other suggestion for you to try on that would be having more vegetables and some fat to go with that salmon. Although salmon does have fat, I would like to see you maybe with a half an avocado or a full avocado or some nuts, and you can soak your almonds overnight, which is really the best way for our teeth and the best way for our absorption. When you soak them overnight, which in your refrigerator would be great, you just put a bowl and then you could put almond milk in the almonds or filtered water, and you just cover those things completely with that liquid, and then put just a small plate like the one that you use to have toast on, or it goes underneath your coffee cup or the tea plate, and put that over it, or some other glass container that seals. You can put that in there, and then the next day you're good to go for your breakfast, and you could have some of those for dinner. So on your plate, if you have more fat, I would like to see how your reaction is over the course of 3 weeks to your sugar craving. And then I would like to see, instead of just the spinach, if you could also have a few more vegetables on there. Carrots have a lot of sugar in them, so it'd be nice to see how your biochemistry responded to the sugar that's in those carrots. And then some other vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, or something else, squash, zucchini, so that you're giving more things for your stomach to worry about, and then your biochemistry to go, ooh, how are we going to handle this variety of vegetables? Your thoughts?
No, that sounds like a possibility. I mean, the most recent example of the impact of fat, I don't have to go any further than Judy, my significant other, who's been eating duck fat for the last 6 months religiously. She spreads it on her toast, and she's gluten-free as well, but she puts it on everything. She cooks with it, and she takes Amazon's here like every 2 days delivering duck fat. It's unbelievable. So she uses that. I see that the use of fat as a negative. Just like
even after what you and I have just shared now about the fat as a helper to people who are on the sugar cycle, so you're still somehow convinced that fat may not be good for you.
Well, because I think back to when I was younger, you would spread margarine or you would spread chicken fat or whatever. It all falls into the same category. You would, the whole of being healthier back in the day was take off the fatty skin, cut away the fat. So it's the same thing, but it's a different type of fat. Right.
I asked Judy if she wouldn't mind sharing on camera a question I have for her. Does Judy mind coming on camera?
She'll come speak to you right now. I mean, she lost, how much did you lose by eating duck fat for the last 6 months? 12 pounds. But she goes and she works at the gym. She works out. She does bar class. She does other things. Yes, this is Judy.
Well, when she's available, I have her. Is she there now?
Talk to her.
Hi there, Judy.
Hi.
How did you learn, Judy, that fat was good for you, and when was it in your life that you learned that fat was good for you?
I always liked fat, but there is a Hungarian diet which based on animal fat, and it's supposed to, and there is a special liquid which cleaning every cells of your body, and then the fat releasing helps to release the bile from your, I think, pancreas, I'm not sure. And because you have lots of bile, it It's like antiviral, antibacterial in your stomach and colon, and it makes you very healthy, and you don't get sick. And I just lost 12 pounds, and I'm eating fat and toasted bread, but I don't eat anything fermented. You shouldn't have cheese or dairy, no dairies, no pickles, no sugar, no alcohol, which sometimes I cheat with. That's the only thing. You're not supposed to have fruits, just pomegranate, but I'm eating raspberry because it has less sugar, just a little bit. And it works very well. I couldn't lose weight with anything else. Even I can eat dinner 9 o'clock at night and I'm still losing weight. And right now I'm just stable. I'm not losing and I'm not gaining.
Did you call this the Hungarian diet?
There is a Hungarian doctor who basically created this. There is a special liquid you drink, and I think it has grapeseed extract, and it's supposed to basically detoxifying every cell of your body. And then with the bio, you flush out all the toxins, and because you get rid of all the toxins which touch to your cells, that's why the fat just disappearing, because the fat is basically protecting you from the toxins. That's why you build up fat, because your body has the toxins. And when you get rid of all these toxins, then the fat is melting away. I can't explain too scientifically. I just follow it, and I feel good. And I learned from another nutritionist before. There was a girl who I know a long time, because after you menopause, you're losing your hormones. And basically, if you fat helps you with everything, with your hormones and with your brain. Fat is one of the most important for your body. But with this diet, you cannot have seeds and you cannot have plant-based oil, because it's plugging your, I think, pancreas. You're not making, it can't release the bio if you eat plant-based oil and seeds. You can't have any seeds.
Did you
very different what?
Did you grow up in a family where your grandmother and mother knew about fat and the benefits of fat?
I mean, we always had in Hungary, the Hungarian diet originally is like homemade sausages, and yeah, I grew up with fat. We had for snack in the afternoon, we had a slice of bread with duck fat or chicken fat on it. My mom used to cut off the fat from the chicken, but she didn't fry, but with the heat, she shrinked it, and it was like crunchy, and we were eating that. And we were eating liver, we were eating the chicken brain, or I used to eat, especially in Vienna, the pork brain. I like the bone marrow, which is full of fat. If my mom wanted to make me happy, when I visited her, she always made the bone marrow soup with lots of, bones, like the bone soup. Yeah, I grew up with that. For me, it's normal.
Do you still eat bone broth or bone marrow?
Yeah. If I have a chance, yes.
Do you make it yourself, or do you buy the powder at the store? How do you get that?
No, the bone marrow, you can buy the bone, or sometimes in the restaurant you can get it. You can. I don't do that too often, but I am. My sweet is because I don't crave sweet because I'm just I was always conscious about my weight, and since I was 15 years or teenager, I chose to be pretty and not chubby, and that's why I just not eating sweet. I didn't keep sweet at home, but the problem is if I start to eat like a chocolate bar, I eat the whole thing. That's why I don't even get it, because I just for me sweet is not a big thing. What I make, I have like the pasture raised cow's the collagen protein, and I mix with that xylitol, which is the sweetener, and a little bit of raspberry, and it's foamy and it's great because I'm not drinking, I'm not taking any dairy since March.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
I don't have any gas. I used to have so much gas and so much stomach problem, and since I follow this diet, I'm fine. Everything is, I feel very healthy.
Wonderful.
And I'm gaining my muscles. Like every month, I gain 1 pound muscle.
Yeah, that's good. So you're not opposed to gaining muscle weight. You're just opposed to gaining excess fat weight.
Yeah, I'm losing the fat, but I'm gaining muscle. That's why my weight is just the same now. I'm not losing, and I'm not really gaining. Probably I'm losing the fat, but because I'm gaining the muscle, that's why I'm like the same. Then I'm pretty.
You know that getting bigger muscles helps you burn more fat, correct?
I know, because muscle need more energy.
Correct. Good. I think we're blessed.
I wish I could teach Gary, but he doesn't listen to me.
Well, we have to talk more about how coachable Gary is. He's a nice person, but it doesn't mean that he's coachable.
But he changed a lot. He's now doing organic, and I'm not he's not doing microwave because I'm against of microwave too. Yeah. And he's doing everything. He's good. He's not eating too much sweet actually. He just have one bite, two every night.
So if he sees a chocolate bar like this, he can just have one portion of it and put the rest away for another time?
No, yeah, he just have like 2 little squares. Okay. And also with the, I don't think it's bad.
This is the same one I eat.
I see that, yeah.
So, I mean, I tried to buy the organic, or if it's dark chocolate, maybe dark chocolate with quinoa or almonds or something in it like that. I would eat the whole thing. But what I'm describing to you is this overpowering urge to do it in at all. Not how much. Not that I'm.
We can't hear you because you're too high for the microphone on your
computer. I think it's a stress release for him.
Thank you for coming in, Judy.
What I'm describing to you is not that I overindulge in the quantity of it so much, but I'm very conscious of how I feel after having even 2 pieces or 3 pieces. I won't eat the whole chocolate bar. This could last me 4 days, 3-4 days, but I might have some grapes or something else on the same night. I might have a few little bites of little Austrian cookies that we get. I mean, it's a little bit, but every time I do that, I feel it's a chemical thing. I don't eat like a whole pie. I don't eat hydrogenated, cakes and oils and things like oils. No, but I'm still overdoing it. Even if it's a healthy chocolate, it's still one of these is 250 calories.
Actually good for you. Chocolate.
So
Good with my diet.
what I'm trying to get to with you at Sifu is to understand what the mechanism of action is that's causing me. If you're saying if I eat more during my meal, if I eat more vegetables like broccoli, whatever, or that's going to offset and affect my urge.
That's an experiment. As you know, medicine and wellness is not an exact science, and each person's body and their history is different. So what I'm wondering is that if you gave your brain, which is where the enzymes are sent to go digest that food, if you learn food combining, which I'm not an expert on food combining, but my body and my intuition that taps into my body is an expert on food combining. So I feel like yesterday I was out at a restaurant with a friend and his wife, and I wasn't very hungry, but on the menu they had New England clam chowder, and that's, I call it a goopy meal. It's got a lot of cream in the New England clam chowder, and those clams are soaked in that stuff while it's being cooked, and if it's out of a can, which this one wasn't, they'd be soaked in it for months or even a year. So what I saw that, and I said to myself, based on where I am right now, which was after 3 hours of fitness early that morning and later a swim, now I've been working on my computer for several hours, and we're out at lunch, and I said, you know what, the gloopiness of that New England clam chowder and that heavy cream and that type of fat doesn't sound like it's going to be good for me right now in my digestion, and is going to disrupt my diet. And so what I did is I looked on that menu, and I chose a salad that had salmon in it and some other types of things. So it had greens, salmon, and some nuts and some other vegetables, and it was a pretty good size, but most of the thing was greens. So I ate that, and I had hot water with it. I didn't even order tea. I just had a glass of hot water, and I felt pretty darn well afterwards, and I felt good the rest of the day, and I slept well. And so unconsciously, I knew it was making me feel better. That unconscious, I felt good consciously about my decision, and I felt like I won. And I like being victorious over the wellness plight. You have to call it the wellness war. I won the wellness war with that one decision I made yesterday. And today I'm feeling pretty darn good, and I haven't eaten. I had an avocado for breakfast today, which is a large percentage fat with a lot of nutrients, and I haven't had any chocolate, and I have 3 bars staring at me, and I'm not hungry. And why am I not hungry? I'll ask you why I'm not hungry.
Because the fat fills you.
Well, I guess because of the fat. I don't know. I mean, I can go sometimes during a work day. I can go the entire day without eating at all. And other days, on a weekday, I might have 3 full meals. Some days when I'm eating nothing, I still feel okay. Other days when I've had breakfast and even had something else, I'm headachy and I'm looking for food. So it's completely all over the map. There's no consistency whatsoever when it comes to that, because I'm all over the map. Some days I'll have 3 meals, some days I'll have 1.
That is not abnormal. That's very normal, and we could talk about that in a future conversation. So if you would, we'll wrap it up now. But there's 2 things I want you to look at. I'm going to send you a few links as well. So I did put fat in my body this morning, and the reason I did is because my avocado was at its last day of good use. So I wanted to eat that because it's an avocado. I don't want to go to waste, and I also spent money for it, so I did eat it. I didn't need to eat it today, and here's why I'll tell you why I didn't eat it. Is because over the course of the last 10 years, I've learned how to become fat adapted. That means my brain can tell my digestive system, enzymes, etc., to go in and eat the fat that's in me, which is all over, but a lot of it, if I do have any fat, would be around the midsection. I really don't have much fat on me, but it's all over. But there's an easy source, which would be in my abdomen. So my body knows that if it needs to feed the brain, which is where the majority of our calories are used for someone who's not that's not doing a lot of physical activity, it's the brain. Now, a guy like me who does a lot of physical activity, it's still the brain, because the brain with me, a busy-minded person, is going 24 hours a day. Even in the sleep, my brain's doing a lot of processing. And most people's it is, but with a guy like me who's got a busy brain and is doing a lot of reading and thinking and concerned about humanity and his own wellness, it's going a lot, including the time that I sleep. So it's fat adapted. My brain's going, okay, get the fat, turn that into glucose, feed the brain, allow the functionality of the body and all the nutrients to cruise around and feed all of the heart pumping. That's all done with glucose, and it's done by converting the fat I have on my body into glucose, which is work. And that conversion requires a glucose to feed that conversion. So those are the things I'm going to ask you to read up on, is being fat adapted. And secondly, food combining, which is a biggie, and you're going to experiment to see what food combinations work well for you on a busy day, what food works well for you on a non-busy day, on a weekend, on a relaxed day, etc. And so those are some things you could look into. How do you feel about that?
Sure. Sounds good. I'll give it a try.
Good deal. Gary works in the medical field and has for more than 30 years, correct?
Correct.
And so you're still learning about how you yourself function now that you've got gray hair, and even though you have all these experiences, there's still new things to be learned. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a specialist in focusing on one particular or two particular areas of the human body. I don't know about the rest, and that's a lot to cover.
It's a lot to cover. So give those things a shot, and we will regroup as you have the need to, or the impulse to share some of your findings. We'll regroup on another Google Hangouts with Sifu Slim, sifuslim.com, and we welcome your conscious and your fair comments below. We don't want people criticizing us for trying to discover things that work. We would love comments that are helpful and well thought out. So we ask you to do that in kindness, and we're here putting this information out in order to help each other and in order to help the planet and the world and all the people who are out there trying to make a good go of this life. I'm Sifu Slim with Gary. He's in Boca. I'm in Newport Beach, and we're wishing you all the best in your happiness, health, and wellness and prosperity. Shaloha.